By the time my oldest son, William, turned 7, he'd accumulated several $100s in a bank account, cash gifts from relatives at Christmas or on his birthday. Each year after depositing those funds, we'd ask him whether there was anything he'd like to buy. At age 7, he answered the way he always did, "No, there's nothing I want." "It's your money to do with as you like," I urged him. "Isn't there some toy you want to buy with that money Grandpa sent?" He shook his head. "You're sure?" We were sitting on the gray leather sofa in our den, Will in his flannel PJs and me in my robe. Looking serious, he finally explained, "I'm saving up to buy my children food and clothing." I've told this story many times over the years, in part because it's funny, but also because it seemed to capture something essential about Will, the sober, hyper-responsible child who, even at age 7, had his eye on the future. Most parents have these stories they like to tell about their kids, part of the family lore trotted out at holiday dinners. For many years, that story about Will seemed prescient. During my own childhood, I often heard my mother tell one particular story about me. According to Mom, my first spoken words came late. When I finally did speak, it was in complete spent sentences rather than baby talk. Years later, my analyst had a field day with that story, making interpretations about my pseudo-maturity, my hatred of being small and inexperienced. I think that story also says something about my care and love of language. I wrote a 3-chapter novel when I was in 4th grade, all about my teacher's pet dragon, Herman, and I've been writing ever since. Here I am at age 62, many books and novels later, reading you words that mean so much to me, their music, the quality of thought behind them. I also have a favorite story about my second son, Paul, who was 10 at the time. We were all in the swimming pool, and Will was ridiculing Paul for his latest obsession, some popular new device or trendy article of clothing he wanted us to buy him. "Why do you always have to have the latest thing?" Will asked. Paul replied, without a hint of irony, "You have to understand that I am all about trademarks and appearances." We've teased Paul mercilessly over the years about that remark, unfairly, as if his preoccupation with appearances is merely superficial. With an artist's eye for beauty, he began sculpting the female body at age 12. He later developed an interest in fashion, then independently applied for and won a scholarship to an arts high school in California. Last year, he graduated from Central St. Martin's in London and now works as an assistant designer at Oscar de la Renta. As Will moved into his late teens and early 20s, he continued to focus on accumulating wealth, but seemed less concerned about those hypothetical children. At the University of Chicago, he developed libertarian views and a Darwinian take on the world. Dog eat dog, the poor and disadvantaged as losers in an evolutionary struggle to survive. After he graduated and began to earn money, he still disliked spending it and saved $40,000 during his first year at Google. I recently asked him what he intended to do with all his wealth. He thought about it for a moment. "I'd like to have a lake house one day," he said. "My partner and I have a house not far from several lakes in Colorado, and Will shows little interest in visiting us there." "Really?" I asked in surprise. "There needs to be a place where the whole family can get together," he explained. "If I don't have that after you're gone, who will?"